what to do about wildfires, answering your common questions, and how to keep yourself safe. Wildfires in Canada have prompted millions of Americans to inhale unhealthy air for a third straight day as smoke from hundreds of Canadian wildfires continue to cast haze over populous parts of the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast, according to the Wall Street Journal. Forecasters say that people should limit their time outside because inhaling polluted air can cause headaches, irritated eyes, fatigue, and difficulty breathing. What should we do about wildfires? I mean, what if you live in a place where wildfire haze can affect you, but the wildfires themselves can't? How dangerous are they really? And is there anything to be done? That's what we'll be looking at today. Welcome to The State of Us. I'm your host, Justin T. Weller, joined today by the one and only, your friendly redneck liberal and the senior resident historian here at True Chat, Mr. Lance Jackson.
It's always something, isn't it? Just when I'm trying to do better, be healthy. Now summer's come and I can't breathe the air because it's full of hazardous materials caused by wildfires.
That's right.
Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Well, I don't know if that's what I'm trying to tell you, but I think the National Weather Service would say that because you are a senior, child, or immunocompromised person, you should be especially careful.
Well, I'm two out of those three with a childlike brain. Okay. So does that count? Do I hit all three?
I don't think it's one of those where you want to hit more than one.
I gotcha.
Ideally, you don't hit any.
Darn.
Would be
Okay. So I thought I was going to win at tic-tac-toe. I had three there.
Three in a row?
Three in a row. Yeah.
So wildfires aren't necessarily...
What am I supposed to do?
They're not necessarily something that's new, right?
I don't like to be inside.
No.
I can't run an air conditioner because it makes me feel even worse. So the smoke's coming in.
Maybe you need a better air conditioner.
No. I don't.
Well, that sounds stubborn. You could get one that has better filtration, more modern, maybe won't make you feel sick.
I work in buildings where you tell me we have that, and I'm worse in the summer than I am when I leave the buildings. So all your great new technology is not good for my lungs. Being outside is good for my lungs.
Except not right now.
It's better than being in here. I felt better this morning until I came in here for 3 hours.
Well, that might be a
breathing all this fake air.
So wildfires really aren't new, right? I mean, they've been happening a long time.
It's natural. Oh, come on, people. Really, do we not get National Geographic? Wildfire are nature's way of rekindling life. It's supposed to happen. Now we're supposed to stop nature?
Really, so far this spring, according to the Wall Street Journal, the Western U.S. has been spared from bad air quality.
Notice how it just ignores me?
However, its own wildlife season typically peaks around July when the air quality is unhealthy for weeks or months and the sky turns orange. Wildfire smoke is a fact of life in the western United States, but it's unusual in the East, where officials were scrambling to warn residents about the unhealthy air.
Oh, but all the smog's coming from the buses and the cars in New York City. We don't warn people of that on a daily basis.
Well, in New York, but not here. This is a more widespread problem for people that aren't used to experiencing air quality concerns. So, questions about wildfires, Lance. Why is wildfire smoke so harmful right now, and who is most vulnerable? Well, wildfire smoke contains a complex mix of gases, hazardous air pollutants, water vapor, and particulate matter, which pose the greatest threat. Some of these particles, which include dust, dirt, soot, or smoke, are so large or dark that they can be seen with the naked eye. But the tiniest of them, microscopic particles that are about 1/5 to 1/13 as wide as a human hair, can travel deep into your lungs and even into your bloodstream. There, they can cause inflammation and dampen your immune system. Breathing in wildfire smoke can make anyone cough, wheeze, struggle for air. It can irritate your eyes, nose, and throat, and it can cause headaches. Certain conditions like asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or heart disease are especially vulnerable to these, as are the very young or very old. Even short-term exposure may have long-term consequences. A study in 2021 performed in California concluded that just 1 week of exposure to wildfire smoke was associated with a 3% increase in premature births. Lower income regions and communities of color may also be at greater risk of health threats from wildfire smoke, since they are most likely to breathe in daily pollution from cars, trucks, and power plants, in addition to the wildfire smoke.
Okay. You can't escape it. So why are you worrying about it?
Well, there are ways to protect yourself.
Oh, I see. Go inside the air conditioning that makes you breathe even worse?
What's the best way to protect yourself from wildfire smoke, according to the New York Times?
Okay.
If a wildfire is close enough that you can see flames, or if your community is blanketed in smoke or ash, you should prepare yourself to evacuate if you're instructed to do so.
Well, I'm so glad somebody figured that out. How many millions of dollars on what government report did we spend to figure out, hey, the house next to you is on fire. You probably ought to leave. I'm glad they told me that, because I would have stayed. Well, I would have stayed and watched and said, wonder why my TV's on fire. Look at that. Now my wife's chair's on fire. Wow, my chair's on fire. Oh, wow, there's fire all around me. I'm probably in trouble. Really? We have to have a government report tell you that if the woods around your house are on fire, or the house next to you is on fire, you should probably prepare to leave.
How many people do we have, though, Lance, that do not heed evacuation orders? For fires, for hurricanes, for anything.
And that's my problem. Why?
Well, because apparently we've decided that we're going to issue...
Didn't we used to do that on the show? Why do you care?
Why do you care?
Yeah.
Well, you care about wildfires because of the effect to your health.
If they won't... Well, yeah, sort of. But why do I care if somebody else won't leave? That's their problem.
Right. Well, they should, we're just providing the recommendations by the experts here that know the things. So.
Well, I'm not an expert, but folks, if there's fire in your house, leave it. Okay. I'm not an expert. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express, but I'm telling you, if there's fire in your house or next door, you need to walk outside quickly. Okay.
Go the opposite
direction. As quickly as possible away from the fire. All right. Into the arms of a firefighter, because they can help you. All right, there we go. That government report was brought to you by your friendly redneck liberal.
According to the Environmental Protection Agency, vulnerable people like Lance Jackson and those with heart conditions and children should avoid going outside when the air quality index, which is a numerical value from 0 to 500 that indicates air pollution and health risk, goes over 100. So the best would be 0, right? In other words, no air pollution.
So what is it where I'm living right now?
Oh, well, we could tell you that.
I mean, should I be going outside today or not? I'm planning on going outside today.
I have the Weather Channel app, which uses data from the National Weather Service for its information. So if we go in and look at it today, it is 60 on the AQI, which is ranked as poor. The air has reached a high level of pollution and is unhealthy for sensitive groups. Reduce time spent outside if you're feeling symptoms such as difficulty breathing.
Okay, but this says
throat irritation.
For children, it says it's 50. So it's a bad day for kids to be outside at the pool here in Urbana. But it's not over 100, so I'm okay.
Well, unless you're feeling symptoms. If you're experiencing any difficulty breathing, which you do all the time, but if you're experiencing any unusual difficulty breathing, then you should probably not. But no, according to the advice here, like we're
okay from these wildfires.
Anything over 150 means it's unhealthy for anyone to be outside without a high quality mask. So, and we're at 60, which AccuWeather rates as poor. Basically, that means that fine particulate matter is in the air and present. Those are particulates with a diameter of less than 2.5 micrometers. Those are small enough to enter your bloodstream and can result in serious health concerns, which is why sensitive groups even though it's not over 100. Basically, 100 is like the drop dead, like you should not be outside at all. Like unless you've got some super high rebreather thing going on, you should not be outside. 150 would be everybody else, like under no circumstance should you be breathing that air. Yeah, they do recommend that, even if you're far from the flames, the other thing to remember about wildfires, right, is that they can travel very quickly, especially with wind. So don't just assume that, oh, well, I'm 50 miles away from it, so it's no big deal.
And don't flames also create wind? Heat and energy, right? Doesn't that create wind?
Yeah. So, it, can be a culminating
I may be
effect.
your friendly redneck liberal, but I'm not stupid. I know this stuff.
Public health experts acknowledge that parents must give children space to move around. So one trade-off is to have a kid wear a mask outside rather than keep them inside altogether. We know how well that goes. And higher quality masks like the N95 typically only come in adult sizes, so children may not be fully protected when wearing them.
But there are, I'm being a little facetious here, but because this just seems so obvious, but I guess we have to do our, public good. And I think our people are all smart.
Well, we don't have to.
That they know about
it.
this stuff. But it is interesting that there are places in upstate New York that are actually closing school.
Uh-huh. Well, what's there? Doesn't it give you the air quality index there for some of those places in New York right now? What's on that
300 is considered hazardous. See, so I guess you don't die at 200, like you said.
No. Well, because you might die at 200.
No, air quality level above 300 is considered hazardous.
Okay.
This is from the Wall Street Journal.
Yes.
And near Syracuse, New York, reached a level of 351.
So a little bit worse than our 60.
Yes.
Okay. So if you were there, it would probably be a very bad idea for you.
Metropolitan New York this morning had an air quality level of 170.
Yep.
Which is over, unhealthy for everyone.
Right.
Unhealthy for everyone is 150.
Yes. So one of the things to keep in mind here is you might be like, well, why is it so different? Well, obviously New York's geographically in a different position than Urbana, Ohio. But the other big thing, right, Lance, is air quality is a cumulative sort of thing. It's not like, oh, well, there's a wildfire, so it was at 0 and now it's up to 60. It's, well, no, the air quality was probably in New York sitting somewhere around 50 or 60 anyway. And then you add to it because of other conditions that are going on, right? Just because there's a wildfire doesn't mean everybody quit driving in New York and that the smog went away. There's that kind of stuff too that I don't think that we always think about. It can be worse for certain people in certain areas because if your air quality is not very good to start with, then this takes it to unsafe levels faster.
But it also means that the Prospect Park Track Club scrapped their planned 5K race for Wednesday evening.
Well, that's a shame. Yeah. So can an air purifier help? Keep it here on The State of Us. We'll be right back. By some estimates, Lance, a good air filtration system can cut smoke pollution indoors by about 50 to 80%. When skies grow hazy, if you have central air and heating, close your windows, switch your system's filtration setting to recirculate. For those that don't know, if you have a thermostat, right, and there's a thing that says fan on it, and fan says auto, or it says on, what you'd be doing here is switching it to on. Okay, instead of auto. Auto basically means that only if the AC is running or the heat is running is the fan also running. If you turn it to on, then the fan, only the fan, is always running. So it's always pulling the air through the vents in your house, which is pulling it through what? The filter in your house, which is what they're getting at here. You can also add a higher efficiency filter, like one with a minimum efficiency reporting value, or a MERV, of a 13 rating. For comparison, just because well, what does that mean? A lot of people buy something that's like a MERV 6 or a MERV 8 typically to put in because those are a little bit cheaper. But not that you would always need to run with a MERV 13, but MERV 13 is going to get to the point where it's going to filter out these finer particles. So you could do that. And if you don't have central air, then portable air purifiers with HEPA filters can work well in small spaces.
I got one of those.
An air purifier with a HEPA filter?
I do.
Do you use that?
Yes.
How's that work?
It's better.
You have a pretty big house, though.
Mm-hmm.
How often do you change your air filter in your central HVAC system?
Twice during the winter.
Okay.
Usually in October and then again in December or January.
Because see, here's something you could try if you switch
because I don't run the air conditioner.
Right. But don't run the air conditioner. Turn the fan on only, fan only, and switch out that filter with a higher quality one and replace it again in a month. And you may notice better air quality inside without having ever run the air conditioner.
But then you got to shut the windows.
No.
And then it gets hot.
I mean, you could leave them open, but you'd kind of mitigate
that kind of makes the whole
effect of
what am I doing? Trying to clean the whole outside air?
You'd have
now
to
I'm
change
starting
the
to sound
filters
like my
a lot.
dad. You're trying to cool the whole neighborhood? Shut the daggone door, kid.
Yep.
Okay.
But you could.
I guess I'm not caring enough of my fellow man to do that.
Well, I'm not sure that you'd have enough of an effect. What else can I do to limit smoke pollution inside your home? Thick smoke can sneak into your home through loose seals and cracks, so closing those up can help. Simply shutting windows can cut pollution by about 30%. There we are again with those windows. This window thing's killer for you because Lance loves an open window.
I love fresh air.
Yep. Well, in this case, it's not very fresh. It's smoky.
Okay.
Coughing, deadly air. If it smells like a barbecue inside on a smoky day, placing wet towels around cracks under doors and around windows can slow smoke's entry into your home. The EPA also recommends that avoiding activities like cooking, vacuuming, or smoking on smoky days, which isn't it good, Lance, that we've got a government agency to tell us that
we're paying the
that
government.
when there's a lot of smoke, it would be a bad idea to do things that create
more smoke. Would have never thought of that. Okay.
And nothing against the EPA. Just yeah. Lance had his moments, but that was my moment. You shouldn't be smoking on smoky days. No, no.
And if you don't want to bring stuff from inside or from the out, if you don't want to bring stuff from the outside in, the American Lung Association recommends using a good welcome mat to wipe your shoes on or taking your shoes off altogether when you're walking around your house to avoid tracking in contaminants.
He's shaking his head, folks. Shaking his head.
I'm just thinking of all these wonderful things I'm getting today that I can take home and tell the missus. Look at what we can do. So
we can close all these windows and roast to death. And by the way, we probably shouldn't do anything that generates smoke inside because then, the fact of closing the windows would kind of be mitigated. Oh boy. The EPA does recommend that if, you don't have the central thing or if your home's really too big like Lance's.
Right. But if this is really sad because, for people that are around this, this is real. I mean, in all seriousness, folks, this is a danger.
Well, this last part's something that people really do have to do.
And we're not,
areas.
Right. And we're not equipped to deal with it because I said in the beginning, but this is a natural event. Yes, forest fires and dangerous wildfires can be caused by humans, but a lot of times it is caused by nature, and it's nature's way of regenerating itself. But when we humans decide to live in the path of nature doing its thing, then it can be catastrophic. And this is, in all honesty, these are just things that need to be done. And it's important for some people, who don't know this to find out that these are things that you can do. And as we always say and hear on television, you need to check on people that are sick or people that are older because they do have more trouble with this than younger people.
Yeah, well, it's that cumulative thing, right? Like if you're Lance, for example, and you may already have a difficult time breathing, 60 on the AQI may not be a huge deal for like me, but it might be for him, right? Because just because the overall air quality is that, if you already have a hard time or if your blood oxygen is already low, then this makes it even worse. You know, it's not equal for everybody, which is part of the point of what we're sharing. The clean room thing, some people who are near wildfires are used to that. For those that aren't, this is one of those newer things. If your air quality drops, or I guess goes up too high that it becomes truly dangerous, if you can't maintain good quality, you know, in your entire home, then they recommend put a good grade HEPA filter in one room, kind of seal that room off, preferably one with no windows, you know, and that way you have a place that at least when it gets really bad, you can go in and still, you know, breathe. So what about preventing them altogether? Because I mean, I think that's another thing, you know, should we attempt to prevent them? And if so, how? Well, Australia is leaning more on indigenous people experience to prevent huge wildfires, which they have been fighting. A visit by the U.S. Interior Secretary highlights the importance of traditional practices in managing the environment. When, I'm not going to try to pronounce this gentleman's name, but a native of Australia sets fire to the countryside, the 34-year-old walks alongside the flames using leaves and branches to put out embers and make sure the fire stays along the desired path. Mr. Patterson from the Bonbi Nation is one of the many Indigenous Australians seeking to reintroduce cultural burning, a practice that was widespread for thousands of years but was disrupted after Europeans colonized the continent. We just walk with it and we just listen to the peaceful sounds of the crackling of the grass, Mr. Patterson said. We'll probably be burning a lot more this year and in the coming years. Scientific evidence is mounting that in some areas, similar methods can lower the intensity of wildfires, support biodiversity, and reduce greenhouse gases released by out-of-control blazes. All crucial outcomes when climate change could increase the frequency of severe weather that results in wildfires. Australian fire officials and local governments are studying how Indigenous practices can inform their own burns while making it easier for Indigenous people to do cultural burns themselves. The country's slow but growing embrace of Indigenous knowledge mirrors the U.S., where Indigenous tribes are also seeking to reintroduce cultural burning. In California, state authorities last year said they wanted to expand cultural burning to better manage forest and mitigate wildfires. The Biden administration, meanwhile, has been pushing for better recognition of traditional practices and has given some tribes more authority to manage the land. The U.S. Interior Secretary, the first Native American to serve as a cabinet secretary, visited Australia a few weeks ago to highlight Indigenous knowledge and said many of today's environmental challenges could have been lessened if colonists valued the stewardship practices of Indigenous people. So back to notice lessen the severity. It's not saying wildfires won't happen, right? We can't stop wildfires from taking place. But the severity and frequency has increased because as the climate has changed, certain areas have dried out and severe weather has become more likely, which has started more fires. You have a culmination of different things going on, right? Drier weather makes it easier for things to burn. And then when severe weather strikes, it's more likely that a fire starts. And
we've had more people moving into these pristine areas and building their wood homes in these, which then just serve as fuel
right
to the fires that are started naturally.
And people also start fires, right? I mean, the more people there are, there will be more fires. It's kind of inevitable. So I think the other side of that is we talk about the increase of quote unquote natural fires because of changes to the climate that are making fires more prevalent, but also the climate changing and it being more arid and dry also means that it's easier for people to accidentally start a fire that goes out of control. So obviously one of the ways to address that is with what they're talking about, which is strategic burning, basically selective burns, to lessen the spreadability of fires when they take place, and also to burn things off that could become uncontrolled and then become these massive things that put, like we're seeing from Canada, huge amounts. You're going to put pollutants in the air, right? Because people say, well, you're going to start a fire to lessen pollutants. You're going to put less pollutants in the air doing it this way than if you let these massive blazes run rampant and out of control.
Exactly. Right. And
that's the thinking.
That's the whole point. And it's been done for centuries. So when people question its validity and whether or not it makes sense, it's like the indigenous people in the United States and Australia have done this. It's part of their culture. They know where to do it. They know how to do it. And it doesn't stop everything, but it does help make things not as bad when a wildfire then does spark. And why not use the things that have been proven over time to be effective? Sometimes you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? You have something that works, just incorporate it and accept it and make life better for everybody. Makes sense to me.
The other thing, obviously, to talk about is, okay, well, that's something that helps us manage it, but that still doesn't mean that the frequency is going to go down. You know what I mean? Like, okay, well, great, we do a better job managing it. Maybe they're not quite as intense as they would have been otherwise. But if we're still having more fires, is there anything to be done about that? Keep it here on The State of Us. We'll be right back. Climate change, Lance's favorite thing. Wildfires have been happening for pretty much as long as there have been.
Why is it my favorite thing?
Oh, I don't think it is. I was being sarcastic.
Oh.
Unless it is your favorite thing, but I don't think it is.
Well, you make it sound like, are you saying that I don't believe in it?
No, I think you do.
Because I totally believe in it.
I think you do.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean we like it.
Well,
I don't like climate change.
Well, I guess, no, my frustration when we talk about climate change are the deniers.
Yeah.
How can you be out there and say it's always been this way?
Well, they're going to say we've always had wildfires, which is true. But if you look at the government's, tracking of wildfires over the past number of years, the number and severity of wildfires has been increasing. Now, in fairness, right, you could say, well, that doesn't mean that climate change is causing it. But, without, I guess, going down that rabbit hole, it's definitely contributing.
Yeah, me eating double cheeseburgers isn't the cause for me to be overweight.
Right.
I could argue that, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And there probably are, right? There probably are other contributing
mitigating
factors,
circumstances, right?
But to say that that's not having an impact is also a bit not likely. So I guess the other side of that is,
right?
Let's be honest with ourselves. There's no quick fix, right? We've talked about that before with climate, which is part of why it's a tough subject that people don't like talking about, and our legislators don't like talking about, because Democrat or Republican, all the fixes that really would fix things aren't simple and they're not fast. And those are bad things to run for office on.
And they cost money.
Right. They cost a lot of money, and they're not going to happen very fast. And most of the people that would vote to put them in place won't even live to see the results. And those are not sexy things to campaign on. So they don't care that Levi is going to suffocate and die because the air quality is going to be bad.
But the flip side is,
they won't be here.
If we don't do it, as you just pointed out, we're going to leave behind a planet that the younger generations may not be able to save, because the planet will fix itself.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Maybe not fast enough to save us, but it'll eventually.
But it will.
It will right itself.
It will, exactly. It will. It's done it in the past.
Yep.
I mean.
And if it has to purge us from the surface of the earth in order to fix itself, that's what it will do.
Then that's what it will do. Right. Nature will take care of everything.
Yep.
And, the cockroaches will survive, as we know, right? They are the oldest living thing on the earth. They've survived since the dinosaur times. So there will be things from our planet that will survive. And if you think I'm being facetious here, I'm not. This stuff is all scientifically proven that that's what happens, okay? We will not be able to adapt quickly enough to make the changes necessary to survive. But the planet will fix itself if we don't start doing something. And again, if we continue this attitude of, well, it's not going to affect me, so I don't care, and you don't care about your children or your grandchildren or great-grandchildren that you may never meet, then I guess that attitude's fine. And that's where I get frustrated talking about climate change and doing things. is the number of people who just say, it's not going to affect me, so I don't give a darn about it. That attitude totally sends me over the top. I just can't deal with people who are so self-serving that they won't sacrifice in the here and now for future generations.
Well, one reality is we talk about, I mean, the article mentions that, the fire season, right? Wildfire season has been growing in length. So the amount of times that we're subject to bad wildfires is increasing. You think about what's going on right now with wildfires and how unpleasant it is. Well, what if, right, we spent about twice as long in a severe state like this and the severity was worse? I'd say, well, that's not going to happen. Well, that's what has been happening the last number of years. The season is getting longer and the effects on air quality are getting worse because the fires are getting bigger. So if we all rewind to COVID, did we all have a lot of fun having to wear masks all the time because, that was what we had to do and stay inside?
Stay away from people.
Did everybody really love that? Would we like to do that every year for 6 or 8 months on end because the air quality is so bad that it'd kill you if you go outside without a mask? I mean, is the world that we want, for example, me or our intern here, to raise their children in one where you can't play outside without a mask? Not sometimes, but ever. You can never play outside without a mask.
Well, and the point is, there are, not necessarily in the United States, but there are places like that in the world right now where the air quality is so bad that children have to do that.
It's not a hypothetical. There's already places where it's like that.
Where that occurs. And what we're finding, if children don't, because many of these places, as the article points out, are in poor economic regions
where they can't afford those protections,
then we're finding that they are having more pulmonary issues per capita than any place else in the world. So none of this is made up, okay? And when we talk about climate, that's what frustrates me. Are those people that say, well, you're just making this stuff up. We're not making it up. This is really happening. And to your point, it's going to get worse if we don't start to do something about it, to the point that we will reach that point of no return, correct? Where no matter what we do, we won't be able to reverse it. And let me here's the other side, right? This is the morbid thing, but I'll say it. You kill enough people, the air quality will get better.
Right. If there are less humans, we'll pollute less.
Right.
And therefore the air quality.
So if you have this catastrophic thing where the air quality is so bad for an extended period of time, there'll be, if 3 or 4 billion people die, then in 20 years, the air quality will get better.
What did we see at the height of COVID, right? I mean, that was a story that you and I covered of, did we see how quickly the air quality index around the world improved?
The earth could improve
in
itself
just a few months
when we quit driving because spewing things out.
It was like, oh, wow, look how much better everything got.
Yep.
Now there weren't, millions and millions of less people, but what there was we weren't doing activities that caused that type of pollution, and air quality pretty quickly started to improve.
The earth is a magical place. Nature knows what it's doing. We keep thinking as humans, we can control nature. We can't. Nature is in control. All we try to do is warp it around the edges a little bit.
Manipulate it some is our hope.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
That's our goal.
And that, people, is why I get frustrated when I talk about this topic, because we as humans keep trying to think of ways we can control Mother Nature. And that just isn't it.
So
it's not the way this works.
I think what we took from today, right, is that you should probably try to pay attention to the air quality index, especially if you're somebody that can be particularly affected.
And we showed you where to find it.
Right. And it's easy to find.
Because I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, is it something that is important to me? Yes. My lungs are not good and the air quality is important to me. I didn't know how you found out what the air quality was. So that was a positive thing today.
Yes. I actually went to AccuAweather.com and went to, what I did, folks, is I went to Google and I put in air quality index for Urbana, Ohio. And the first thing that comes up is AccuWeather's website. And then currently the air quality index, the AQI for today. And it tells you right there.
I'm going to go home and check out Purple Haze.
Purple Haze?
Yeah.
Okay.
Purple Air.
Purple Air. I don't think it's
While
called
I listen to Purple Haze, I'm going to be checking out Purple Air.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, it does. I mean, this makes sense, right?
Yep.
Because there are mornings when I get up and I struggle more than others. Maybe if I check the air quality, maybe that's another piece of information that I can put into the equation.
Yep. May inform, again, not stopping doing things, but it may change what you do on a given day of, well, hey, if the air quality is going to be, twice as good tomorrow, then maybe that's the day to be strenuous. Because the other thing is, there's real correlation, and the article talked about this too, that air quality actually has a pretty substantial effect on mental health too. Something that's easy to overlook because when you're worried about, breathing, you're not as much thinking about what it's doing to your mental health. But guess what, folks? When you get less oxygen to your brain, you're not as happy as you could be. And your brain does not function as well as it might. This isn't some miraculous discovery. It's that your brain is an organ like everything else. And if you're inhaling, bad air, it affects your whole body, which includes what? Your brain, which is your mental health. So if you're doing that, if you feel hazy on a hazy day, there's a reason for that. And that may inform, again, what you're deciding to do. So there's the things you can do to just, I guess, be smart and navigate. And then there's the things as a society that we need to push for that says, is this really the direction we want to go? I hope it's not. I don't. I don't love it. I don't love when I was up in the plane and couldn't see Columbus on a clear day because I should be able to. You know what I mean? I know it's out there. I know the line of sight's there, but I can't see it because the air is too dirty.
Another thing to be aware of and to do the best you can to cope. Correct?
That's right.
That's what we've tried to do today. And why do we do that? Because
you're going to tell us.
I am going to tell you. This is my part. Because here at True Chat, we have a mission. And that mission is to educate people by providing honest, open, and respectful conversations. And we did that today because we educated you. And I was open and honest when I thought about it took the government to tell you that if something's on fire, you should probably go the other way. I'm so great. This is one time when I'm just in total support of the government with that factual information.
You have no qualms about their recommendation to move away from the fire.
Move away from a fire. Yes. It's coming towards you.
Okay.
All right. But hopefully you too learned some things. And if you did, share it with your family or your office mates. And if they enjoy your comments and you're not stingy, you can tell them that, they can get it themselves by tuning into Spotify, Overcast, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, and everywhere podcasts are found.
The State of Us releases new episodes Tuesdays and Thursdays. First thing in the morning is a podcast. Those same episodes are heard on the weekends on AM and FM radio stations across the United States and parts of Canada. For The State of Us, I'm Justin T. Weller.
I'm Lance Jackson.
Special thanks to producer Bradley Butch, and thank you all, our audience, for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Be the change. Be sure to check out our website, thestateofus.org, for books, articles, and all the ways to tune in. thestateofus.org.